Okay, good afternoon, guys. This is just going to be me going through your test review with you. I'm not going to go through every single problem if some of them are similar to others, but I'll try to give a good go through most of the types of problems. So one of the topics that's going to be on our Friday's test, or our test tomorrow, is going to be triangle angle sum theorem. So that's just knowing that the three angles in a triangle, that they're going to always add up to 180 degrees. This other in this section 4.1, we also talked about the remote exterior angle theorem. And the remote exterior angle theorem is not necessary to know, but it will help you, and it is somewhat of a shortcut. For instance, if you look at number 1, this is actually something you could do with the remote exterior angle theorem. These are my three interior angles. And let's say this is angle 4 out here, it's my exterior. The measure of angle 4 is going to be equal to the sum of the two remote interior angles. So the remote interior angles would be angles 2 and angles 3. And by remote interior angle, it just means the angles that it's not attached to or it's not adjacent to. So this would be the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3. So for this problem for number 1, again, you could just do it with the triangle angle sum theorem, knowing that you can do 180 minus 109, and you figure out that this angle is 71. And then you could use the triangle to figure out the other angle is going to be 180 minus 149, which is 31. Or if you use the remote exterior angle theorem, it's telling us that this and this add up to the 109. So you could have done x plus 78, equals 109. And then you could just subtract the 78 and get our answer that way. So again, it's an option. Oh, I put 39. It's 31. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, 31. So for this one, it's 31 degrees. All right. For number 2, this one is remote. Sorry. This one is a triangle angle sum theorem. This one is a little bit harder because you have to write an equation. The three angles add up to 180. So your equation is 7x plus 6x plus 2 plus the 4x minus 9 equals 180. Solving the equation would be 17x minus 7 equals 180. Will be 17x equals 187. 187 divided by 17 is going to be 11. So our answer for x is 11 here. All right, next thing I asked you for the measure of angle ABC. So we follow letters. Here's A, B, C. Sorry, trying to use my writing tablet today. It's a little harder to write with that. So this is the angle that I'm looking for, angle ABC. So to figure out that one, I'm going to plug in. Be 6 times 11 plus 2. So this angle is going to be 68 degrees. And then I ask you what's the longest side. So in order for you to figure out the longest side, that's going to actually be like our next section, which is the triangle inequality piece that you have to use there. So in order to answer that, I'm first going to make sure I know all of the angles. So 7 times 11 is 77. And then this one's going to be, 44 minus 9. So this is going to be 35. So those would be all of the angles. So if I want to know the longest side, what I should be thinking is that opposite the biggest angle is the longest side. That's the corollary, aka extension, to the triangle inequality theorem. So since this is the biggest angle here, angle A, with the 77, the longest side is going to be this side because it's opposite that. So our longest side is going to be BC. Okay. Next problem. For this next problem, this was like the first day with the triangle angle sum theorem. The first thing I would do here is I would focus on x. Again, if there's multiple variables, normally it's a tell to do them alphabetically. You normally can't get A without finding B. Sometimes you can, but again, a lot of the times that's kind of a hint on how to approach it. So I'm going to start with x. And starting with x, I'm going to switch from this tablet. Hold on. Oh, okay. It's much easier for me to write on the screen than with my writing tablet. All right. So this is my triangle that I'm going to look at first. For this triangle, these three angles have to add up to 180. So I'm going to do 180. I'm going to subtract the 67. I'm going to subtract the 59. And I end up with 54 for x. Once I've established that x is 54, I should know that the relationship between x and y is that they are a linear pair. They're forming a straight angle. So if this is 54, I can do 180, subtract the 54 to figure out what angle y is going to be. And that's going to be 126. So now I have the 126 and I have the 27. So there's a few things I can do to figure out z. What I think it's easier is to use the smaller triangle over here. So I'm going to use this triangle that I'm outlining in the green here. And now for this triangle that I'm outlining with the green, I have two of the three angles. One of them is 126, one is 127. So again, if I wanted to do the equation, it would be 27 plus 126 plus z equals 180. And that's what I would do. So 180 minus 126 minus 27. I get that z is also 27. All right, moving on for number 4. For number 4, so this is the triangle angle sum, but it's also using the isosceles triangle theorem because, as you can tell, this triangle is isosceles. So again, these theorems, even though I'm like trying to separate them by section, they are overlapping. As you can see, triangle inequality was with number 2, and the isosceles triangle is here with number 4. So the first thing I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to start alphabetically, so that would mean I'm going to look for W first. So if I'm looking for W first, I'm going to start with this triangle that I'm outlining over here in the green. For this green triangle, here, all three have to equal 180. So it's going to be 180 minus my 71 and minus my 44. I end up getting 65 for W. Okay, so once I get that W is 64, I should immediately know what X is because these are vertical angles and vertical angles are congruent. So X is also 65 degrees. Okay, and then I have to acknowledge that this triangle on the other side, let me outline it in a different color here, that this purple triangle is isosceles. And in this purple triangle, because it's isosceles, I know that my base angles are congruent. So I know that these angles here, angles y and x, are congruent because they're base angles of this isosceles triangle. So that means y is also 65. And then to figure out z, I'm going to subtract from 180. The 65 and 65 add up to 130. So it's going to be 50 for z. Okay, moving on. Next section here is isosceles triangle theorem. For the isosceles triangle theorem, this is the last topic we just did, so it should be a little fresh in your head, so I'm not going to write it out. But basically, it just says that if a triangle is isosceles, then the base angles are congruent. So for this first example here, once you see the sides that are marked congruent, you should be able to determine which side is the base. So that means that this side here that I'm marking in yellow is the base, because the base is the non-congruent side. So once I've established that that is the base angles are congruent if it's isosceles. So to solve for x, I'm going to do 7x minus 12 equals 5x. Oops, I don't know what that was about. Equals 5x. And once I do this, I'm going to move the 7x. This is a problem like some students have when there's not an equal number of terms on both sides. Just move the 7x. You'll have negative 12. Take the sign down. Equals negative 2x. Then I'll divide by negative 2. And I get x is 6. And then I have to figure out y. Now you can't figure out y without figuring out what these bottom angles are. Even though it's not indicated, that's something that you're going to need to do here. So I'll plug it in. So 6 times 5, 5 times 6 is going to be 30. Again, these angles are congruent, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it over there. That's also going to be 30. And then I can figure out y by subtracting from 180. So it's going to be 180 minus the 230s is going to be 60. So it's going to be 120. Now, don't get fixated on the diagrams. I told you guys specifically in class that I'll intentionally not draw them to scale. So, not to try, try to help people guess the answers, etc. So, not drawing a scale, 120 is fine. Moving on to the next one. For the next one, for this triangle, this is the converse of the isosceles triangle theorem. It says if you have congruent angles, then the sides opposite the congruent angles are congruent. So that means that these sides are congruent. Again, I told you guys another way to think of this is that since these angles are congruent, you can consider this the base. And these are base angles, hence they're congruent. So since this is the base, the other sides are the legs. And the legs are the ones that are congruent. So my equation here is going to be 6x minus 6 equals 24. I end up with 6x equals 30. I get x equals 5. Then I'm asking you for AB. So AB is going to be 15 because 3 times 5 is 15. And then the perimeter is going to be 15 here, 24 here, and we know this is also 24. So I'm adding up all the sides, so it's 15 plus 24 plus 24. So that's 48, 53, 63. This next problem, number 7, you should be able to handle this pretty quickly. I'm going to pause the video, do them, you guys try them, and then you can come back and look at the answer. Alright, so these are my answers for number 7 and 8. Hopefully, everyone's fine with those. They're pretty straightforward, just labeling the parts. And we've done a few examples like number 8. For number 9, for this one, let's sketch a picture here. If you have a situation where you do not have a picture, I would definitely just sketch a quick diagram. Give you a better idea of what's going on so you don't have to guess, you know what's going on. It says triangle DEF, isosceles triangle DEF with vertex angle E has a measure of 47. So this is 47. Now, again, this is, you got to read it as you're reading, you got to understand. It says with vertex angle E. So we talked about the different parts. The vertex angle in the definition, when I give you guys the parts, is opposite the base. So that's also telling you that, in addition to telling you which one's the vertex angle, it's telling you that this is the base. So since that's the base, we know that these are the base angles, and those are the ones that are congruent. So it's asking you to find the measure of angle D. So you would do 180, subtract the 47, since that's the vertex angle. That's going to leave you with 133. And then that 133 has to be divided equally by 2, so it can be split between angles D and F. All right, so when we divide that by 2, I get 66.5 for angle D. All right, excuse me. The next section was the triangle inequality. Well, I don't know what happened with this scan. It's a little wonky, but let's see. It says to list the sides from largest to smallest. So if we're listing them from largest to small, the angles, from largest to smallest, we need to focus on the largest side or the longest side, because opposite the longest side is the largest angle. So here's our long side. So that means angle A is first. That's our biggest angle. Then we have 17. Opposite 17 is angle C, so that's going to be the middle angle. And then lastly has to be B. Let's move on to 16B. For 16B, again, if we want the biggest angle, we start with the longest side. So our long side here is 24. Opposite 24 is D, so first is angle D. Okay. Then next is going to be the 18.6. So opposite the 18.6, that's our middle side, is going to be our middle angle, which is angle E. And then lastly will be angle F. All right, there's your answer for C. Moving it down. Next, you're asked to list the sides from longest to shortest. So to list the sides from longest to shortest, you need to focus on the angles. I'm going to take a minute and just find a second. It shouldn't take a minute to find the missing angle here. So the missing angle here, I'm just going to subtract from 180. 180 minus the 90 and minus the 22. I'm going to be left with 68. Wow, 68. Okay. So again, be careful. Make sure on the test you guys follow the specific direction. The previous one said, long to short or largest to smallest. This one says short to long. So just make sure you put them in the right order. So I want to lose points for that. So because I'm looking for the shortest side, first I'm going to start with the smallest angle. Again, if I'm giving you angles, I want to know sides. If I'm giving you sides, I want to know angles. So the smallest angle here is the 22. So the shortest side is going to be opposite that 22. So the shortest side is going to be AB. What is going on to erase? Alrighty, and then after that, the next side in order, again, I'm going from small to big this time, is going to be my 68. Opposite the 68 is AC. And then the last side is BC. For number 18, again, I would find the missing angle first. You don't want to just use these two and think you know what's going on. Do 180, subtract the 61, subtract the 39, and it's going to be, 180 minus 61 and minus 39. It's going to be 80. So now that we have all the angles, again, I'm doing short to long. So I start with the small. This is my small angle. So my short side is going to be opposite that. It's going to be HI. All right, move on. Next, 61. Opposite 61 is HG. And then the last one is going to be GI. And there's your answer to number 19 as well. Again, hopefully this is easy for you guys here. All right, so the next type of problems are going to require you to just determine whether or not these values can represent sides of a triangle. So this is when you need to this is the actual triangle inequality that says the sum of any two sides must be greater than the third side. All right. So I'm just going to go through and do these. And I'm also asking you to, it'll probably be on the, not probably, it'll definitely be on the test that I'm also asking you to classify by its side. So make sure you don't forget that extra little piece because that'll be worth a point. So the sides, the options are scalene, isosceles, and equilateral. All right, lateral. So for the first one here, we're going to have a no for 20 because 8 and 12, that's only 20. It's not greater than 24. It has to be greater than the third side. For number 21, if they're all equal, it's always yes, and it's equilateral. For number 22, you basically only need to look at the smaller two. We take the smaller two. It has to be greater than 12. That's going to be a yes, and it's scaling. For number 23, we're going to have a no here. 18 and 18, it's not greater than 50. So it's a no. For number 24, it's also a no. And if it's a no, you should not be saying scalene. You should not be saying isosceles. Because if it's no, it's not going to make a triangle. So we don't need to classify it. 24 is also no. 30 and 30 is equal to 60. It has to be greater than that value. So this is a no. And for number 25, we have a yes. And this one is isosceles. For the next set here, for numbers 26, etc., this is when you're writing an inequality for that third side. For this, remember what you need to do. Pick a letter to represent the third side. I'm just going to use X. It should be less than the sum of the values and greater than the difference. When you're taking the difference, you want to remember that this should never be negative, so you always want to do the big minus the small. or you can always just make sure you put in absolute values to make sure you have a positive number. But you should, again, you don't want a negative for that. So if I look at number 26, that third side, again, I'm going to use x. And it's going to be less than the sum and greater than the difference. The difference is 6. The sum is 22. All right, we got 8 plus 14. And we got 14 minus 8. For the next one, 27. For 27, again, I'm going to use x. Now for 27, it's a little different because they're variables. We can't actually combine them. So it's just going to be, it's less than y plus z. And it's going to be greater than. Now, I'm going to incorporate absolute values here. And the reason I'm going to incorporate the absolute values is because I don't know which one is bigger. It could be y, it could be z. So because I don't know, I'm going to put absolute values there to make sure it's going to be positive regardless. And then for the last one here, number 28. For 28, again, I'm going to use x. Less than, greater than. The sum is going to be 5m plus 4 plus 2m minus 3. So I add those up. I end up with 7m. And then plus 1. For my difference, for the subtraction, even though you don't know exactly what m is, you know that 5m is bigger than 2m here. Because we're dealing with lengths, it wouldn't be a negative situation. So I'm going to do 5m plus 4 minus 2m minus 3. Excuse me. And then I go ahead and subtract. So it's going to be 5 minus 2, so that's 3m. And then it's 4 minus a minus. Minus a minus becomes a plus. So this is our final answer. For this next section, these got cut off. So don't worry about that. For number 37, tell which segment is the longest. Okay, so for number 37, I'll put the answer there. But let me walk through number 37 with you and show you how you would get this. I'm going to start with triangle 1. Doesn't matter which one you start with, but I'll start with triangle 1. Since I'm starting with triangle 1, I'm going to, let me just highlight it so we know which one I'm talking about. So I'm talking about this yellow triangle right now. So for triangle 1 here, I'm asking which segment is the longest, like period. So I have quite a few to choose from. So right now, I have 5 different choices. So I'm just going to show you how we're going to work this out and work our way around. So if I'm looking at triangle 1, this yellow one here, I'm trying to figure out which segment is the longest. The segment that's the longest is going to be opposite the big angle. So the big angle here would have been the 70. So the biggest side is going to be this one. So right now, this is the long or the big, whatever. Now I'm going to move on to triangle 2. For triangle 2, I'm going to say, just to indicate, I'm looking at the orange one now. And for this orange triangle, I'm trying, what the heck? Come on. All right, so for this orange triangle, I'm trying to figure out which one is the biggest. So for the orange triangle, my options are 1, 2, or 3. So I find the biggest angle. The biggest angle is the 80. And opposite the 80 is the 3. So that's going to be my biggest side from the orange triangle. But the reason my final answer is going to be AB, the reason my final answer is going to be AB is because even though this is the long for this triangle, for the yellow triangle, that would have been the short leg. So that's the reason that this ends up being our answer, AB. Because in the yellow triangle, even though this would have been its big, that would have been the smallest from the yellow one. So that beats it. Now for B for this one, I would say the DE is the answer. I don't think this one is as clear, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but this one isn't as clear. But DE would be the answer. And if I do have one like this in the quiz, it'll be much more straightforward and clear. For this one, it's not as clear because this is the big for the green one. Excuse me. This is the big for this one, and this is the big for this one. So this would beat this big, but it might not be as clear to you guys why, it's one versus the other here, and so it's not really worth going through too much. But I'll make sure it's clearer on the one you do have on the assessment. All right, and I just want to take the time to do maybe one of these distance formula problems. All right, so for these distance formula problems, first thing is asking you, can these represent the sides of a triangle? So in order to figure that out, you have to do the distance formula. You have to figure out what all the sides are. So I'm going to start off by AB. That's one of the sides. The second side will be BC, and then the third side will be AC. So let's see if this is going to happen. Now the square root, again, it's x1, y1, x2, y2. So it's going to be 4 minus 8 squared plus 4 minus 8 squared. You end up with the square root of negative 4 squared plus negative 4 squared. You end up with the square root of 16 plus 16. It's the square root of 32. So right now we can just leave it as the square root of 32. For BC, the next side, it's asking you for that length, so square root. Again, I'm just going to move over since I'm using the next 2 points. Again, you don't have to label it if you're comfortable. I'm just trying to be clear for those students who might be not sure on what I'm plugging in. So it's going to be the square root. It'll be 8 minus a negative 11 squared, and then 8 minus a negative 11 squared. Again, the minus is in the formula. That's x1 minus x2. So the minus in the formula does not replace the fact that it's a negative 11. So it's minus a negative 11. Double negatives become addition. This is going to be the square root of 19 squared plus 19 squared. This is the square root of 19 squared is 361, I believe. 361 twice. 722. Square root. All right, and then the next one, we have AC that you're trying to find the length of. So for AC, you're going to do square root 4 minus a minus 11 squared plus 4 minus a minus 11 squared. Again, this becomes a plus, this becomes a plus, so it's going to be 15 squared and 15 squared. 225 twice equals the square root of 450. All right, so I'm just going to get a roundabout decimal answer just so we can see what's going to happen here. I want to be a little bit more exact, so unlike normal where I would normally say just go one decimal place, I'm going to go like 2 or 3 decimal places here. So the square root of 32 is going to be 5.65, I'll round it to 7. Excuse me. The square root of 722 is 26.87. And then the square root of 450 is 21.21. 21.213. So for this, I would need to be adding like the 2 smaller ones to see if it's greater than the big one. So let me check that out. Oops. So these are my 2 smaller sides. It's going to be the 5.657 plus the 21.213. And I want to see if that's greater than my 21.87. 5.657 plus 21.213. And I get the same thing, 26.87. So, it's not clear. 26.87. and it's not greater than 26.87. So therefore, I'm going to have to say no, this is not a triangle. Again, it has to be greater. And since it is not a triangle, I would not do B. So say not possible. Make sure you address it in some type of way. And then for C, if yes, so again, if yes, list the angles from short to big. So again, since it's not possible to create a triangle, we wouldn't be able to go further. So we'll just do a couple more short answers, maybe some of them that look a little different, but we're not going to do every problem anymore. We've done pretty much all the types. Alicia likes to create triangles with sticks. If she has a 5-foot stick and a 4-foot stick, which stick can't she use to form a triangle? So it can't be 9 because 5 plus 4 is equal to 9, and it wouldn't be greater. It can't be 4. I'm sorry, no, it can't be 4. Oh, it's asking me which one can't. Sorry, I'm thinking it was asking me which one was. So that's the answer. So that's the one that wouldn't work. Something like number 10. It says, which is the largest exterior angle? To answer this question, you have to think about what the exterior angle, gotta think. So the exterior angles, first of all, would be U, V, and W. These are my 3 exterior angles here. And it's asking you which exterior angle is the largest. So let's think. So let's think about, let's just make up random. I just want you to think. So let's say this was 20. If this was 20, then the exterior angle would be 160. If this was 50, then that exterior angle would be 130. Because again, remember the relationship between the interior and the exterior angle is that they're supplementary. So if I want to know the largest exterior angle, what I should be looking for is which one is the smallest interior angle. Because the smaller the interior angle, the bigger the exterior is going to be. So I should be looking for the smallest interior angle. So to find the smallest interior angle, I want to locate the shortest side. The shortest side is 17. So therefore, the smallest angle is going to be Y. And since this is the smallest interior angle, that means that angle V would be the largest exterior. Because if that was like 10, 180 minus 10, it's going to be 170. All right. The next one, we will not be having any proofs. I believe I stated that in the directions. So no worries on that. These are repetitive. I'll put the rest of those answers on the key, but we don't need to go through any more of those. Again, these are repetitive. Let's look at something. This is part 5 here. These are kind of repetitive too, but I'll do 3. I'll do the first one here, and then I'll do 3. The angle chaser again. For this one, number 1. Excuse me. We should be doing 180 minus the 48. That's going to be 132. Because again, we know these base angles are congruent. This is the base. So we do the 132 divided by 2. It's going to be 66. So Y is 66. What's Z? It's going to be 3Z equals 66. So 33. And then the last thing we define is X. So for X, it's going to be 66 equals 3X plus 8. We end up with 58 equals 3X. 58 divided by 3. So 19.3 repeating. All right, let's look at the angle chaser. This was on the previous quiz, the same angle chaser. Obviously the values might be changed around, but what you would do for this one is, again, rule of thumb, start alphabetically. So I'm going to start with this big triangle here that I'm outlining in blue. And for this big triangle that I'm outlining in blue, these are the angles, 1, 2, and 3. So those 3 have to add up to 180. So I'm doing 180. It ends up being 42 for angle A. The next one I need to do is get B. To get B, it's going to be 180 minus 34 because these are a linear pair. So it's 46. To get C, to continue working our way around this circle here, I'll just make it a little bigger. To get C, I need to use this orange triangle. For this orange triangle, I can figure out this angle that's adjacent to C, 180 minus 88. Excuse me. I end up getting that this angle is 92. And then C is supplementary or linear pair to that, so it's 88. All right, then I want to make my way over to D. For D, I believe this is 116. So this is going to be 64. And then the last one, I'm sorry, I can't read my handwriting here. 64. And then the last one here, for E, it's going to be, you know that these are equal because they're vertical, so that's 46. You can figure out this angle by using the green one here to subtract from 180. So 180 minus the 64 minus the 71. It's going to be, excuse me, 45. And again, these are equal. So it's going to end up being 89 degrees. All right, so let me see if there's anything else worth doing here. Some sketches. All right. Okay, so I think we're good to go. You guys have a great day. Obviously, you don't have to watch the whole video. Watch what you need help on. I will post the whole key. Have a great day. Be ready for the test. It'll be posted at 10 a.m. tomorrow.